to Unmuted by GosuGamers, a podcast that takes a closer look at the esports world. And in every episode, the crews will be diving into relevant news, hot topics, as well as tough issues in the competitive gaming industry. And today, we'll be talking about Dota, but not just any Dota, but South American SA Dota specifically. And my name is Freddy, and I'm here with Andrea or Div, as well as Christy, or better known as Pandora Dota. Um, since Christy, you're our Dota 2 lead, you have the honor of introducing our guests for today.
Oh my, okay. Today we have our special guest, our manager from Beast Coast, Vitória, which I am super excited about because if I can just proudly show my representation here, absolutely love this team for, oh my gosh, they've been together for what, 3 years or so now.
Yeah.
So it's something that's really exciting to see. And our whole topic today about the rise of South America as a region and where it's come from and where it is today is an incredibly fantastic story. And we want to talk more about it, which is why we wanted you to be here. So I'm excited that you've joined us and we can get some more input and insight into what happened, how that's happened, and what you see as the future.
Perfect. No, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here to be able to talk a little bit more about the South American scene and my boys. I'm very proud of them. The fact that, yes, we've been together for basically 3 years now, since 2019. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this TI and hopefully seeing everyone there if everything goes well.
So how's everyone doing right now? When we still have like more than 2 months away from TI-10. So what are you guys doing now or working on right now?
So we're working on getting our COVID vaccines probably next month. The plan is to bring them to the US, and here they're gonna stay the whole month so they can get both doses of Pfizer vaccine. And during their stay, they will have a boot camp here in the US where they will probably play the BTS tournament. We are still in talks with other tournaments to see if we'll be able to play them or not. But this is the plan so far. And in September, they will go back to Lima, have 2 weeks off, and then go back again to Romania to boot camp before TI for 2 weeks. So yeah, there's a lot of practice coming up on the next month, and so far they have been having their little vacation, having some time to chill after the leagues and all that. So yeah, this is our plan so far.
Sounds good. Can't wait to see you in Romania in September.
Yes, me too. Looking forward to it.
Hopefully the bootcamp here will be as good as the one you guys have in the US. But yeah, it will be different anyhow.
Yeah, it's always good that the traveling around and having different experiences. It's always a very nice thing to do. It's the perks of working with esports, I think.
But having two boot camps, one in NA and one in Europe, actually, I guess helps a lot the team because you can practice with your NA counterparts, right? Evil Geniuses or Undying. And then coming to Europe, I guess in September we'll have a lot of the teams already here.
Yeah.
But especially the European ones, yeah.
Yeah, from the NA bootcamp, accordingly to what we've seen, the connection to Europe is good enough, so they will be probably able to practice in the European server since the moment they arrive in the US. Something that is unfortunately not possible from Peru, like they can only play in the NA. But yeah, I think it's going to be very good because there's this possibility, right, of practicing with the best teams since the early August.
So how are you I know typically teams like to avoid certain teams that they're going to be competing with in big events for the scrims, but right now, unless people are going to TI, a lot of the teams are kind of either on break or disbanding or a mess, do you see that as kind of like a hindrance when you're looking for the scrim partners and everything, or has everybody kind of decided, okay, we're just going to scrim with all of the TI teams and that's just what it's going to be?
It really depends. Like it depends mostly on the availability of the teams, as you mentioned, but also like on the timings. Like we still don't know if there will be a new patch now, considering how everything has been silent. Probably not, right? But most of the time, the boys really enjoy practicing, like by playing their rankeds. They take it very seriously, and they think like this is a very good way of practicing. So we usually take this approach of screaming a lot of teams, but not on a very heavy amount. But they also pub a lot, so they keep it up, you know. So yeah, I think like they don't really mind about what teams they're screaming. It's more about having the practice to happen, right? It's very far from TI right now, and like I don't think this will interfere in how teams are playing there by having information on each other. After all, it's screen, right? You cannot take that as like, oh, they played this on the screen, so they will play this on the tournament. So it's just like I don't know. I think this is
Mm.
not a big problem for us.
Well, especially I guess there's no if it's still the old patch, and then that'll change. You can at least still get the practice in on the old
Hmm.
patch stuff, and it's not giving away anything because it'll all have to change before then anyway. But
Yeah.
You mentioned that the boys actually like to play a lot of pub games. I mean, ranked games or whatever they do in Dota 2 lobbies. And we know that for a fact that SA pubs were probably not the most famous, or if you want, they were infamous for certain practices. And this year, South America has 3 teams at TI, which I find it absolutely amazing and mind-blowing. And I'm just curious how this scene managed through this COVID time, playing only on SA, or NA sometimes, servers, to improve so much. What was the, I don't know, ingredient, or what made the scene flourish so much in
Um,
such a hard environment?
so I think that on the Peru side of things, they have always been playing mostly on NA servers because the connection to the NA servers is decent enough where they can play without a ping. On Brazil side of things, this gets a bit more complicated because, yeah, the connection to the NA is very bad. But we also have had the leagues where there's many Peruvian teams playing against the Brazilian teams where the Peruvians have more experience playing against NA. Not gonna say that the Brazilians doesn't have, like we see Lelis playing on NA, we see other players that manage to do that, but there is a ping issue. Like it's above 170, 180, depending on when you are. And this is very bad, like for decision making in game and fast stuff that you have to do. So they have this advantage on the Brazilian side of things, but they always manage to practice on an anyways, right? But looking at SG and where they have their gaming house and all that, like I believe they have a gaming house in the north part of Brazil, which is one of the cities that has the best connection to an A. So they are pulling the practice to an A's thing by having a good located gaming house. So I think this is good for them. It's an advantage that most Brazilians don't have. And also, of course, the leagues and how the point system worked, right? Thunder played very well on the first major, which we unfortunately couldn't make it. But by having a good position on the leagues, we secured the points, right? So I think that our region is getting a bit more competitive, but mainly is because we have teams that remain on top, like to secure the points that they need, and this gives opportunity to other teams, right? Like
So I would
this.
just
well,
say,
go
jump with
ahead.
the questions. Would you say that the DPC system, as it was this year, 2021, helped the SA scene?
Yeah, it definitely helped. Like the league system is very good because now we have actively 18 teams, I think. No, 16 teams, 16. So this is very good for our scene because like usually those teams wouldn't exist because in before it was basically playing qualifiers, and if you don't qualify to minor or major, you're out, you have no income, you have nothing you can do, right? the leagues gives the support for the people who want to keep playing, because then we know that they will get something out of it just by staying, by not being on the bottom two, right, of the last division. So this is very good because yeah, it keeps people wanting to be part of it, and it gives the hope that they can continue doing it. So yeah, I
Well,
think
like
it's definitely good for the scene.
TI7 was the first year that Valve split NA and SA. And so that was the first year we got to see a South American team actually be able to be represented at TI and on the stage. And then since then, we had TI8, same thing, TI9, and now we have 3 teams, and not only just that, but like Peru is the second most represented country heading to TI after China, which is huge because I mean, you might think like, oh, Russia or something like that. And they're not. They're actually, it's China with 22, then Peru with 10, then Russia with 7, and then Brazil with 6. So like it's Peru and Brazil up in the top 5. And that's absolutely amazing. So, there was in the last 3 to 4 years, this progression where when Valve gave the own region and made 6 regions and everything, we got to see a lot more from South America on the main stage and getting representation. So do you think that like that is kind of where it started, was when you finally didn't have to start competing with NA for those
Oh, yeah.
spots?
Most definitely. Like, and before it was the ping issue server, right? And not only that, but you were competing with more teams, because back in the day, NA was bigger and had more teams. Nowadays, they have less big teams or like well-known teams like they had in the past. But like to go to an event, you would have to not only play against the South Americans, but also against the North Americans, and the North Americans had the ping advantage, which I think only once the SA managed to get the spot on the Hamburg major, if I'm not mistaken. Unknown did it.
So
So
you
they
guys
were,
were at a disadvantage, not just in terms of support
mhm,
but even just in the ping, like they didn't alternate servers for you guys to
yeah,
compensate
no,
or anything. You had to always play on the NA
yeah,
ping.
no, not at all. And when you would ask the teams that if we could play on NA, the NA teams would, I don't know, throw a tantrum or something. Like it just wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've seen in, especially this last year, but we've seen Beast Coast prior to this even. Um, you you know, the play style, the teams, the talent, the skill, all of that is on par with all of the teams internationally. This isn't a situation where, okay, SA got their own region, and in their region, here's the best of their teams, but they are just garbage compared to the rest of the regions or the world. I mean, you're holding your own. Like, this isn't a matter of like, okay, well, we kind of just appeased them and gave them their thing, but they always come in last place. Like, South America is definitely causing a lot of ruckus in the international scene and really rising to the top. And part of it, I think, is play style, the play style alone, but it is also about talent. And maybe now, like you said, with the DPC having some financial support, there's more support from potential sponsors or ability to be in boot camps together and bring people together, or pay managers to be helpful. I don't know in those ends, but that's definitely something I think we're seeing. What do you think? Like, how much further can it go, you think?
No, yeah, I think that since there was a division of the slots, like having an A and SA, it helped because in the beginning, yeah, SA wasn't doing great, but it was also the first moments that they were having this international experience that we never had. So as soon as we started getting the international experience, things started to change, right? Like, let's say I will use my team as an example. We went for our first international tournament in Croatia. It was Dota Pit Minor in 2019, And this was their first. Yeah, at that time we were Majestic yet, but after that we moved to Enverguesa. But basically, this was their first international tournament, and we ended up playing top four. And this was such great experience for them that like not only they learned how to play with pros, but they realized that when they go out and play on tournaments, it's just as playing Dota, right? You don't have to be looking at the other player and thinking, oh, but he's, I don't know, PPD and he won a TI or he went far, he did this, that. No, they're just a Dota player. It has the same ability as you have, and you're as capable as he is to win. And this is something they realize by playing internationally. And it's something that many players struggle when they first go to their tournaments because they're like, oh, okay, it's my first tournament. No one really takes me seriously here. No one wants to scream against me, and like I am new in this, so they go play the game having this low expectations of how they can do what while they should be thinking like, no, this is Dota. I know what I'm doing. I am good. I will play my game. I will do my own meta, and I don't care. This is how we started to think and how they started to learning how to play on the international ways, right? And this really worked for them because then we went again to another tournament. After that, we had more experience in playing against the international teams, and more so, we were getting higher and higher until we ended up top 8 of TI. And this was possible because they had the possibility of traveling to the minors. If they weren't there, like if it was only a major with two teams, they wouldn't have gotten there, you know? So I believe that the whole possibility of traveling and gathering this international experience is what is life changing for most players, because without this, you don't even know that you have a chance.
You mentioned the Dota Pit tournament as your first like big international setup, appearance on the international stage. And I think PPD was there. I can't
Yeah.
remember exactly if he was as Ninjas in Pajamas or Optic. I believe it was Ninjas.
Yeah, he was Ninjas.
And
I
he
think
ended
they
up
lost
winning that
tournament.
tournament, right?
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, did your guys felt like intimidated going into that event? Because yes, I understand the fact that all players should position themselves as equal with their opponent, with the same capability of winning or surprising or dominating. At the same time, when you come to a first LAN and on the other side is just PPD, like who is the TI5 winner, and you know that he's such a big figure in the NA scene. Was there a moment before your entrance on the tournament, stage, feeling intimidated by his presence there in a
No,
minor?
no, not at all. Like they're very confident about their play style. Like I think it was even funny because it was their first time on the stage and they played their Sven and their Templar and all this thing. And it was after that Sven and Templar became a thing for most tournaments afterwards. So they realized that they are good, so they don't have to be afraid of anyone else. And not only they're good, but they don't have to adapt to what each team is doing. They have to do their own thing. So
Well,
they were not afraid of. They are very confident players. I must say, it's funny to deal with them. They really they really believe in what they can do, and I think this is why they still perform well and do everything they do.
I remember talking to you at TI8 when you were as infamous there and after the group stage, and I remember how pumped and how confident the guys were. Yeah, I was crazy. I mean, everyone was doing like very professional, all seated and looking cool interviews with the big guys at TI, and we were just in a corner, gather around, and we can do this, and we are happy to be here, and we enjoy this as much as possible. And and actually K1, his Raid King got so famous way before, being trendy, fancy, meta setter and everything. And that speaks volumes about them actually being very confident on what they know they can do and what they prepare from home.
Yeah.
That's good to
Well,
hear that.
that's what I was going to say is like some of the things that you were talking about are things that we see sometimes why academy teams or academy programs are so important so that people can start to get that experience or the travel or not being intimidated by playing against big players and everything. But you guys, and I mean you guys as in a region in South America, your team specifically, and some others, it wasn't the same thing. Like an academy team looks timid right in the beginning and they're just learning and everything. You guys came right out, ready to rumble and showed that and stuff. And so it's an interesting thing because, all the things that they gained through the experience of being able to have their own division and start to travel, they already were prepared for that. Like that didn't set them up to have this success. They were already ready to have that success. And I think that's a really interesting thing, that it shows that the region itself is so strong already. It just needed a platform, a place to be able to showcase that versus, getting some young talent who doesn't know kind of where they're doing or how they line up with everybody yet and needs to be taught that. And I think that's really kind of exciting to see. There's a lot of this untapped potential in regions. It's not just a matter of, well, now we had to grow and develop the players themselves. No, they were already there and waiting, and that's kind of exciting to see that they now have this opportunity.
Yeah. Victoria, I want to ask you, like, with all these like talents and potential in SA, right? In your own opinion, what should or needs to change in order to to help the ecosystem in SA to reach the next level? Like, is there anything else that needs to change right now?
I think now it's just time, basically, that we need. Like the league system works very well. Like we have 3 teams going to TI, so I think this proves the point. So basically, I think it's just time now because the longer we have to prepare ourselves and have this experience and have more teams actively playing with more players showing up on the scene, like 16 teams is like what? More than 60 players, right? So this is like a lot of talent developing. So I think it's just gives us time and we will get there, like even without that we're already kind of getting there. So I think that with a bit more time, things will be things will change for our region and how people see us. They're already changing.
What about the sponsor situation in South America? I mean, Beast Coast is a North American based organization. And prior to Beast Coast and everything, we know years ago, the South American sponsorship team was sometimes a little iffy. We've heard the stories of, when Z Talk and them were caught with the match fixing and banned, that there was some talk around that time about how players had to even pay to stay in their team houses, and the financial situations were really rough, where they didn't get much support from the organizations and there was only a handful of them, or the organizations themselves were pretty naive, or maybe not knowing what they were doing even. So do you see that that's starting to change with so much exposure and so much of Valve giving a chance and some of that prize money, especially from the DPC and everything? Or you still think that's going to be a ways to go to kind of get the sponsorship scene in order?
By sponsorship, you mean supports of the orgs to the
that's
players,
like
or
the right, the sponsorship. How you have Beast Coast or like not the organizations for the teams themselves.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, now that there's the leagues and there's constant exposure of each organization, it's easier for the organization first to get their sponsors to like have a reason to be supporting your team, right? So with that, it makes it easier for them to provide for the players, especially because yes, there is the prize pool, but the prize pool, in my opinion, most of it should go to the players, right? So removing the prize pool point, like we can look at how the viewership of the Peruvian scene is enormous. Like I think we had like Even though on Twitch stream it seems like okay, SA is always behind NA, is always behind Europe, but it's similar to what happens to China. China has their own streams out of the Twitch platform, and the numbers are like millions of people watching, right? The Peruvian scene is mainly on Facebook. So what we have happening is that when there's teams playing, the Spanish broadcast happens to get like 50,000 viewers. Like it is huge numbers. And with that, the teams get a very decent exposure. Players get more and more famous and stuff like that. So I do think it's better for the orgs nowadays than it was before. Like when this incident happened, it was when there was only the NA spot. We didn't have the SA. It was the Americas spot, right? So when this happened, the organizations they were very, very weak. Like there was no salaries. There was some gaming house, but you have to pay for your food, the stuff. Like the orgs weren't able to really provide for the teams because there was no way to do that, right? Unless they pay from their own pockets without getting anything back. But that's not something easy to do in South America because we don't have investors and stuff like that to support the team. There's usually someone that has the passion for Dota and they think, I want to do an organization. I am not super wealthy, but I have some money. I can help providing a house, computers, but not salaries. So this was the problem. And because they also weren't winning any tournaments back then, or it was very hard to, there was no money coming from anyone, right? So they would have to do this kind of thing. Thankfully, things changed. And not only we have the leagues happening now that provides money for everyone, but also provides the decent exposure. It's basically the same exposure for every team, right? It's not like, oh, we're playing this playoff, and if we lose on the first match, we're out and no one will see us anymore. No, every team has at least 7 matches. So those 7 matches have decent exposure, and if the team gets to go to an international tournament, it's even easier, right? In our case with Beastcoast, this is what happens because we had the international exposure, we play in the leagues, and then we managed to qualify to tournaments. So this justify their expenses on us because we are providing them the exposure they also need. So it's a balance, right? Of what the players can provide to the org and what the org can provide to the players. Nowadays, it's easier to get into this balance, basically.
Oh, fingers crossed that the DPC system will stay like that or even improve. Have maybe a more concentrated format, more matches, or
Yes.
even more tournaments. Of course, this year had to have only 2 lands because it started a bit late because of the COVID. But hopefully, we get more next year. Who knows? How feasible or how real do you think is for us to dream about a minor or a major happening in Peru or in Brazil
Um, I
at some point?
wouldn't know. I heard that some POs were thinking about doing something in South America, but I don't know exactly why it didn't happen. But I think it's it is doable. Like the infrastructure may not be the greatest as we see in Europe or NA or some other countries, but we had huge tournaments like ESL one happening in Brazil for CS:GO. There was pro leagues, right? Many big tournaments happening specifically in Brazil, where ESL provided all the stuff, and it was nice. Like it was very good tournaments. So I don't see why it wouldn't be doable. It would just take a lot of logistics and having everything well thought, but it is doable. I think it's more doable in Brazil than Peru, to be honest, because Peru is a smaller country. The infrastructure is still a little bit behind, but it could be done. Not saying it's
But
impossible, but I would see it's more feasible in Brazil.
but as far as I know, at some point Peru had a better Dota 2 fan base than the Brazil. I guess
Yeah,
I believe CS:GO it's actually king
yeah.
in Brazil, right?
So
And this is
Peru definitely has a Dota 2 fan base, but Brazil has the infrastructure,
I
basically.
see. I see. I remember that there was a league some sort of LAN in Peru a few years ago where Alliance got invited, like, you know, the old Alliance and everything. But this thing with the followership, you know, for the game in these specific countries makes me wonder, is there a issue or is there a problem with like young talent coming to this game from Peru? Or because if you look behind, it's always been Infamous, Unknown, which were also back in the day some branch of Infamous or Infamous Young, you know. You guys who went through numerous team names, sponsorless until Beast Coast and Infamous. So it was always just a couple of teams, you know, always fighting. It was you and the Infamous in Peru and SG Esports mainly in Brazil. Is there a problem with like recruiting new talent? Are they lacking?
No, no, I don't think there's lacking talent, at least not in Peru. Like because the Peruvian scene is always on develop. If you look to my players, and 3 years ago they were 17, 18, 19, so they were all young players, right? Nowadays we have new players coming on other teams. Like for example, on the league, there's a team called Gorillas Pride. They have like very young talents. Their mid lane, I think it's 16, and he's very good. He played standing for us, and sometimes he plays very well. So like in the Peruvian scene, the community is very big, and because there's the streamers, there's the tournaments, everyone talks about Dota. There will be always people learning and working their way out to the top, basically, right? In Brazil, the situation is a bit different because the player pool is very, very limited because yeah, there is not many people willing to learn how to play Dota, and those who are learning, they don't usually go to the competitive side of it. They just play for fun with their fans and all that. So in Peru, definitely there will be more talent. On Brazil, right, it's harder. You'll see basically the same players moving from team to team in Brazil, and no one new coming up.
Understood. Well, hopefully it changes if a Dota 2 major or a TI ever comes there and
Yeah,
ignites the passion into the game.
I mean, technically, if Brazil could host the previous Olympics, they could host a TI easily.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Brazil, it's possible. The problem is, yeah, the audience is smaller. But then I could see lots of Peruvians traveling to Brazil to attend to it.
I'd travel to Brazil for a TI, no problem.
Same here. I would go.
It is a great country.
Okay. No, I want to bring the flow of discussion back to Beast Coast, right? I mean, about like your journey to TI-10. So I would like to ask about your reaction and also feeling about a team making it to TI at that moment. How did you feel? Yeah.
Oh, it was great to manage to qualify, but yeah, like we were hoping to get better results on the last major. So since we got kicked out on the group stage, we were depending on other teams' results, right? And this was just awful because every day, like I am on a different time zone from when Kiev is, so I would stay awake until like 9 a.m. without a sleep, watching the game, thinking, "Oh my God, this team has to win! This team has to win!" And it was just awful. So when we saw that we actually qualified, it was a very big relief because damn, it was a hard tournament to follow. Like, thank God EG made us qualify. Thank you, EG, so much because yeah, no, it was a relief for sure.
Well, I mean, it was probably such an emotional journey too, because you had Singapore, which then you didn't go to. So, you guys missed out on any points there and everything. And this was the whole COVID situation. Things were really disappointing to say the least. And then this, now it's reliant on just this event, and then when you, like you said, you drop early, it causes so much stress and tension. I imagine it must have been a very difficult year overall, just emotionally and mentally, so many things happening, TI, the last TI getting canceled, then things getting postponed, then it gets picked up, then you guys have the COVID situation, then you can't go to Singapore, then you go, like it must, how did you guys handle like keep on top of your mental health during all of these things?
It was
what do you do?
definitely chaotic, to say the least. But I mean, what could we do? We could only hope that things would go better next, right? Like, yeah, Singapore was a pity that what happened. One of our players got infected, and because of that, we couldn't go. But it was great to see the Thunder did very well in that major because looking back on the results, we won versus Thunder. So probably if we went to Singapore, we would have had good results there. So it was like sad because we couldn't go and sad to see a team that we beat to do so well, but also good because we consider ourselves better than them. So looking at it and looking at the SA scene, like it was good for everyone, right? But yeah, no, it was definitely a hard year. Like since 2019, things just went way down. So I don't know. We have to see now how TI is going to be, but I do believe like we have to keep our hopes up and be positive, and that's all we can do.
There was a talk after the Singapore major situation where Grant and Beast Coast had said about you guys going to be fielding a 6-man team, so to speak, so that if situations came up like this, did that actually end up happening? And like, how has that kind of been, if it did happen, like how has that played into the whole team atmosphere? And like, how are you guys working that out and what's happening?
So basically, we have a team house in Lima where all the players stay during tournaments. And since there was the COVID situation and God knows like if something like that happened again, we would have to have a standing already, right? Because we cannot just think, oh, okay, this player is sick. Let's reach out to this list of players and see who can. We need to have someone already on standby. I'm sorry. And to be able to play the game, right? And in that case, we reached out to a player that was already part of the team in the past. It was Yadomi. He was the player that went with us to Croatia. And I think he was playing for Unknown. And we reached out to him and said, hey, do you want to be our official standing? We would be living in the house with the team and all that. And he accepted. And basically, he was living with the team, and they were all talking about strategy together with their coach and Yadomi and boys. So that's pretty much how it worked. Like it was good for everyone. But yeah, thankfully we didn't need a descending, but it was good to have him there for both the players being confident that if something happens, they would have someone, and also for Yadomi to live the experience of being together with our team.
So is that something you'll kind of continue on for next season and keep exploring further and taking it to next levels? Or was that literally just because of a COVID situation?
It was more of a COVID situation. Now that they're all going to be vaccinated, I think this won't be really needed, but it's something to think about in the future, right? Like we will have to see what are the needs for the next season. How do we feel about it? If we think we need someone on standby and all that, but it's unlikely that we will have 6 again. Like we'll probably just keep the 5 players and the coach.
Well, it's been a lot of discussion this year, especially because of the COVID and what happened actually at the Singapore major with so many stand-ins being needed. There's been this discussion brought all the time that Valve maybe should think about it, allowing the teams to fill the 6-man roster and change a player. Maybe not like at CSGO where you can, swap a player between rounds, between maps, but maybe at least swapping it just before the tournament. Do you think that will be actually helpful, or it's something that it's not suited for the way how Dota is, as an ecosystem and as a game?
Well, it would be something to think of, but I don't know because usually, from my experience with players, they usually want to play. So if they are the 6th men, they will be there on standby and they will be like, well, I'm here and I'm not doing anything. Like, okay, I'm getting a paycheck, but I'm not playing. and usually that's not what they want to do. So it would have to be someone that is there and is willing to be on that standby position, right? And I think that considering how the system is, that there are so many teams and so many ways of entering the league, that players will be most likely be wanting to play the leagues than to be on standby.
Yeah, playing in a unsponsored team rather than be a
Yeah,
standby for
exactly.
Beast Coast or Evil Geniuses. Unless Valve actually will, I don't know, 5 years from now on, will allow the teams to swap players between games. That would be
Hmm.
actually interesting to see. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know if it will ever happen, to be honest, but yeah, I thought
Actually, why
about
not,
that a
right? I
lot
mean,
this year
why not? Yeah.
Mm,
because, well,
Because it's
yeah.
happening in a lot of the other esports titles. I mean, from League to CS:GO to Valorant. I mean, you have many games that allow that for that, and it kind of account for like various. I mean, I would say you can expand your strategy based on your player pools as well. You know.
I believe the Dota, I'll let, of course, Vitória to
Mm.
expand on this, but I believe the Dota 2 players are very special individually, not just in like hero
Mm.
pool.
Special.
yeah.
That's a good word. Special.
Yeah, I
Especially.
don't know. It's a lot about not only but the hero pool, it's the gameplay, the way they see the map, the way they
Yeah.
understand the rotations or they feel, the game, then their personalities and the clashes that can happen, or how well someone gels with, a four with his offlane or a four with his mid and the rotations. I think there's a lot to work on that. If you have 6 men, if you'd be allowed to have 6 men and swap between games, I think Dota 2 will get even crazier than it is now.
I think that like for games like CS:GO, this makes more sense because on CS:GO there's no heroes, there's no pick phase, there's no like picks and
Mhm.
bans, right? If you
You
have the
execute
players,
something.
yeah, he executes something in the position he plays, and it makes sense like because it's similar to football, where like okay, we have this player who's the as on the defense, and we're gonna change to this one because he has a different style of defense. But on Dota though, even if you change the player and put him to play, there will still be the draft phase. And in the draft phase is where everything changes, right? Like, so I don't think it would be needed to have a extra player because usually you can play around that on the draft. And also like you would have, I think like unless you would be able to change the player after the draft, but then it's just too crazy, right?
Mm.
No,
No.
I don't think that would work because yeah, if it the draft kind of
I
nerfs the
can see how is
a
that
player.
balanced
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
out
no,
after that.
it wouldn't work.
But now, for real, I mean, you keep hearing this thing that a Dota 2 game is 99% won in the draft sometimes, most of the
Hmm.
times. And it's not just a saying, it's actually a fact that the draft is playing a very, very big part in a
Yeah.
team's victory or loss. Yeah. Well, speaking about drafts and strategies, um, because South America has dealt with, in the past, we discussed already about being hard to find a sponsor, to find the organization, to have financial, sustainability and everything. So that also meant that in the previous years, SA teams were not like the most stacked in staff behind the players, like coaches,
Hmm.
psychologists, nutritionists and everything. How is that part developing now in SA, and especially for you guys? Are you expanding the team with more than a coach, or
Hmm.
if you can talk about that, of course.
Yeah, no, of course. So I obviously can only talk for my team. I don't, not all teams have the same structure and availability, but part during the leagues we had one coach that was always there with them, and there's all the other staff, right? Like if the players need feels like they need a psychologist, we provide a psychologist. They have someone that cooks for them every day, so there's balanced food as well. But for this TI, we're going with two coaches because it's the first time I think they provide this possibility of adding 8 people to the list, where one is obviously the manager, one is the coach, and there is an extra position where you can either fill it with a psychologist or another coach or whatever you feel it's more needed for the team, right? In our case, we decided to have like a coach that would help both in strategy and the emotional side of things. So we still haven't announced him, and so I cannot really talk about who it is. But yeah, we will have a bigger support than we usually have, and we really believe this will help us for TI.
Will you be able to travel to Romania with the team? Because I know you weren't able to go to We Play.
Yeah, so I am working on some immigration process right now,
Right.
and it is looking positive to Romania. I do believe it may work, but it's still on standby, basically.
Well, with
But
it being
hopefully,
pushed out to October, maybe
yeah,
that was
well,
helpful
yeah,
for you.
being October was the best thing ever, basically. If it was in August, yeah, no, definitely not. But for October, it's like, I don't know, 80, 90% of chance.
Yeah, because I know you've been with these guys for the whole time. You know, you're kind of a
Yeah.
package together, and
Hmm.
part of that. And I know you've done so much for them. Constantly, you know, in interviews, I've seen, you know, you talk a lot about being there for them for
Hmm.
whatever it is. And I think one of my favorite things that I've heard from and about you is when you just didn't you like just take their mouses or their keyboards or something
Oh,
away from
yeah.
them so they could go to bed and, you know, get a decent night's sleep. And, you know, you
Yes.
kind of have a way that you manage them that is that, you know, you're tuned into their needs and kind of a style
Hmm.
on what works and everything. And I think it would, you know, be such a beneficial thing for you to be there with the team. So I know that's important. Of
Yes.
course, also being a TI. I mean, who doesn't want to be? But I mean, for their sake and for the team morale, for keeping things in line and organized and everything, I know you're a very significant part of that. So it's
Yeah. I really hope to be there. I see myself as like that kind of older sister that is always there, like to try to pull them to the right way, of course. But yeah,
hey, we featured you in the Esports Moms tribute because
yeah,
that's what
this
it's
works as
equivalent
well.
to.
Yeah, I it's kind of older sister mom thing where
Yeah.
you're just like, hey, you gotta keep things straight. You have to do this, you have to do that, and they're just like, oh, okay, Guashi, okay, they're like, oh, but we don't do that. We are just players, and I'm like, yeah, well, but you have to do that. It's always that
Yes.
that pushing them to do the right thing and be there on time and fix their jet lag. This was the case with the mouses and keyboards, I remember, because
Yeah.
it was for ESL on Hamburg. We were there and they were just the schedule was just awful. And you go to Europe, there is this problem from South America because like when you go to China, it's different because it's basically 24 hours different, or I don't know, 12 hours different. But it's easier to fix when it's like 12 different, so not like 7 hour. Because when it's a 7 hour distance, it's just like, okay, it's 3 p.m. and I'm sleepy. What do I do now? But you cannot just sleep at 3 p.m. and wake up at 10 p.m. because then you will be awake all night, right? So what I did is like I was telling them like, look, you cannot sleep during the afternoon. You have to sleep at night. Oh, but I cannot sleep at night because I sleep like all these hours. And I'm like, well, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take all your keyboards and mouses and whatever, and you are going to sleep. And it worked. It really worked.
I remember that. I don't remember if I heard it from you directly in one of the chats or if it was something that showed up on my timeline in social
Yeah, I
media,
think I
but it
posted
was,
on Twitter.
yeah, but I just thought like, oh, that's genius. That's just absolutely brilliant.
You remember how your mom used to unplug the internet back in the day when it
Exactly.
was
Take
yeah,
the
it felt
modem
like that.
away.
Yeah. You have no internet time anymore.
Exactly.
Well, I hope coming to Romania a bit earlier will help them solve the jet lag problem. Uh, and speaking about that, did Kiev felt also hard because of that? I mean, did the jet lag or the time difference, or even the fact that you have to adapt to a very different food type, in Europe and in Kiev as well, plays a
Uh,
role when you have to do it on a short notice?
so I think for Kiev, they arrived like 4 days before the tournament or something like that. So there was a time to adapt, basically. That ESL tournament, like we arrived, and 2 days later you have to play the tournament already. So when you have a bigger window, it's easier to change the times, right? But for Romania, the 2 weeks in advance will definitely help a lot because by then they will be on the right schedule and things will be already settled. But yeah, no, Kiev, had already went to Kiev before. They did have trouble last time, like in
Mm.
2019. But and when we went to Kiev, we were in Burgesa. Um, I
For
remember
minor as well.
yeah, it's a Star Ladder minor. I
Mhm.
remember the food was a trouble because like I don't know, there was not really lunch and dinner being provided, but there was like some kind of snacks by the tournament, and the boys just ate hamburger the whole time they were there, and it was very funny because coincidentally we were the cat burger team, right? It was very funny. But that last time the hotel food and all that, so it was chill. They didn't have problem with that.
Do you have any like fears in terms of competitiveness and looking at the teams that are at this TI? Because I'm pretty sure that everyone qualified at this TI one way or another are so eager to play and so impatient to actually finally play at TI. Do you think it's any team there that might scare in some way? Not scare because we talked about Bisco's not being scared, but uh, there must be somewhere some teams. I mean, we just saw T1 and LGD, for example, how they played at this we play any major last major of the season. God knows what OG brings to TI. It's TI and it's OG and it's gonna be up in the air. Is there any team at this TI that your guys feel like it needs to be very well researched and prepared for?
Usually, like in our case, our most feared enemy is always Invictus Gaming. Like IG is always the thing that ends up eliminating us in a weird way or around. And like I think they also have great chances of being the TI winner. Either IG or LGD if not us, of course, would be one of my guesses because they are very, very strong. Like, and especially after last year, not the last TI not having any Chinese team on the finals, I think they were very, very willing to pull that now this time. But I mean, it is quite intimidating, right? Everything, it's TI again after a whole year of no TI. Everyone is eager to play their best and show the world that they deserve the good spots and all that. So I mean, anything can happen, right? It's TI. It's always a surprise. As you said, OG is there again to put that fear on us all that they will play a Wisp carry or something like that. So we can only wait and see, right? I am very hopeful. I do think we will have good results there. The boys are super excited and looking forward to it. We are going to prepare a lot, so we shall see.
I'm going to put this here so that Grant and Paige can't run away from it. I'm waiting for that black hoodie drop. When is it happening? Oh my God, they have been telling us for like 2 months. So I'm putting it out here so the whole world can hear. I am waiting for this black hoodie drop already. When is it happening? Give us a date. Give me the details.
No, yeah, the merch that Beast Coast does, it is always great. Paige does a great job with it.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
always very
definitely.
beautiful.
I can't wait.
Some
But for those who
fantasy.
don't know, you also are an artist.
Yep.
And you do some really fantastic comics.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do enjoy drawing. It's funny enough is how my Dota career kind of started. But oh God, that was so long ago. I used to do these drawings and things started happening. But yeah, I really enjoy doing fan art for Dota. It is a game that I love, with characters that I love, so I think it goes together.
Yeah, it's always fun to see.
Thank you
Hey,
very much. I need to do something again. It's been a while since I don't post any drawings.
I'll wait. I'll wait eagerly.
all right. Before we wrap up today's episode, Victoria, is there anything that you want to, any personal message that you would like to say to your boys or like to Beast Coast, or even to the fans of Beast Coast? Yeah.
Well, for the fans, thank you so much for sticking with us all this time, especially after the COVID year. Our results wasn't that great, but we came back. We came back from top. This was a hard year for everyone. COVID thing is still very scary, but it's TI. We pulled that last year. We are hoping to pull that again and surprise everyone once again. And for the boys to play their best, to be confident, best they usually are. They know they can, and we can do this. And I don't know. Yeah, looking forward to TI. I want to see everyone again. I miss them.
Can't wait to see you on at TI. Fingers crossed you solve the visa thing until October, and you guys can come in full formula here, because Beast Coast without you, although it's not, for people watching on stream, it's Beast Coast is the 5 boys, but now Beast Coast is more. So I truly hope that we get to have a crowd and have a great TI here in Bucharest.
Yes, me too.
Definitely looking forward to it all. And big historic moment for South America this year. 3 teams,
Yes.
big bulk of the players coming from South America. It's really a historic moment. Let's hope you guys can break into the podium
Top
at
6,
least.
top 4.
Yeah.
No,
Last
top 2
TI?
at least.
Top
Two,
two.
two
Okay.
South American teams in the final. Hell
There
yeah.
we go.
For the first South American TI champion. Yeah. Why not?
Can
Yeah.
you imagine? It would be amazing. It will be amazing.
It will happen at some point. It's bounded. No worries.
Mhm.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah, with that, thank you once again, Victoria. It's great having you here with us for this episode. Really, thank you for doing this and sharing about your insights, and also like yeah, about SA Dota, about the journey for Beast Coast to TI. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here, and it's always great to talk about the team and the scene, Dota overall. As I said, I'm very passionate about this game, so I could spend hours and hours talking.
So can we.
No, but yeah, thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay. And for those who are watching or listening to us, if you like the show, yeah, feel free to leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And feel free to reach out to us at editorial@GosuGamers.net as well if you have any sort of like suggestions or questions that you want us to answer or look into. Yeah, please do reach out to us. And until then, see you guys next time.